Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Life to the Fullest podcast. I'm your host, Dan Jason, the EF3 Life platform. Excited for amazing guests to join us today, all the way from California, Walter Boldish. Thank you for joining the show. How you doing, Walter?
Good. How are you doing, Dan?
Doing great. And you are a trooper, tuning in. I know that you were on vacation out in Mexico, traveling around the world, doing so much stuff, not feeling the best, but man, you look great. You look strong.
Yeah.
You look active, and you created an amazing platform. And I really want you to share with the audience today about that because it's something that I think will really resonate with a lot of people, and I truly believe it will impact many lives.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that nice introduction. And I'll ask everyone to bear with me, my voice, and I might have to sneeze here and there because I'm a little under the weather, but I'm certainly glad to be here. And we'll talk a little bit more about my platform and what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, and Walter, we actually met when way back in the day, right? And I was each one teach one back there in the school at Kip Tech Valley in Albany. And you came into my classroom and you energized the students, and it was amazing. Like I have kids I'm trying to teach English to, and yeah, I did my best to make them excited. But when you were in there, they were loving life. They didn't want to see you go, and it was incredible. And it was actually, I have a picture that I kept from that day, and it's something I'll never forget because you really did inspire. And I think that's what people need to understand, that an idea like someone like yourself had, and then taking a leap of faith to actually put it into fruition and see where it goes. So maybe you could take us down memory lane and help us to recognize the fact that I Got You is really on the scene now, but how did it all develop?
Yeah, that's a great point. So it's funny, real quick, going back to that day in your classroom. And when I'm done talking about the history, I got you and how it started and all that good stuff, I would like to come back to that day because that picture is still one of my favorite pictures that I use when I'm talking to other teams and schools and, companies like that because it's so compelling and I have a great story behind it. So I got you. Um, there's a couple things behind it, right? So there's a whole story, and I tell everybody I got you's my story. And when I'm done with this, I want it to be your story. And what do I mean by that? Well, I'll get into that too. But so I got you is right now, I feel like there's this void in a world and there's a message that doesn't connect. And we have a billion people out there, and yet we're still so lonely. We are still so isolated. And yet we don't talk, we don't communicate. There's so many single people. And I'm a person, I love people. I love to talk. I love to shake your hand. I want to give you a hug. I want to get to know your story. I want to know more about you. But I think it's about that connection that we're really lacking in today's world. So to go really back far further into the I Got You story, and I say it's my story. So to give you a little background, so when I was a kid, when I was a baby, I was born in Albany, New York, and I was put up in Catholic Charities on adoption.
Hmm.
And my mom came in. I have this. I'm 6'1", 205 pounds right now. Right, I'm tall, kind of lean, whatever. My mom is this short, heavy set lady. Her and my father could not have kids, and my mom adopted 4 kids from 4 different families.
Wow.
And I will always be insanely, gosh, I could tear up talking about it right now. Grateful to my mom. I call her the OG of I Got You. She did the ultimate, right? Come on. She did the ultimate I Got You, right? Like adopting us and providing a family for us and giving us, a family. And it's just so amazing. So I grew up in that Albany area and had my mom and dad. I had, 2 older brothers and an older sister. I was the youngest. I was a complete runt. I was in and out of trouble here and there, like good trouble. And growing up, I made a lot of mistakes, a lot of which I'm not proud of, right? And it was just a different time. And I was a self proclaimed knucklehead, but, again, as I had fun, I learned from those mistakes. So fast forward to, I went to 2 years of college down in Florida. Didn't grad, I graduated with an associate's degree, but was just trying to find my way. Didn't really know where I was going. Became a lifeguard in Fort Lauderdale, and then I got married at a really young age, and got married, had a wife, and all of a sudden, now we're having a baby. I'm 23 years old, and my other friends are graduating from college with 4-year degrees, backpacking through Europe, doing all this stuff, and I'm like, holy cow, I'm going to be a dad. Like, what am I doing? So to be quite honest, I was terrified. And at that time, so I enlisted in the Air Force because I needed medical benefits, I needed housing, and I wanted education benefits.
Mhm.
And luckily enough for me, the Air Force gave me a job where I worked aerospace medicine. I was in the hospital, and I worked Monday through Friday. And what it allowed me to do was be home with my family on the weekends and the evenings. But in addition to that, take classes on in the evenings. And so um, it's kind of interesting, Jason, when you look at that. Like here I am, 24 years old. I have a daughter now. My wife's pregnant again, and again, my friends are off, kind of like entering the work, the
Yeah.
career field, and they're doing all different things. And at no point did I ever feel envious because I was so content being at home with my wife and my daughter, and I'm like, this is the greatest life. Like I never knew what I was missing.
Right.
So the fact that I got married, had a daughter, and we were just starting our life, our family together. It was like the greatest blessing to me. I was like, this is amazing. This is like where I'm supposed to be. And so we soon had a second daughter, and life was just rolling around. I was active duty. I was stationed up in North Dakota, and I remember, my wife. I'm 6'1". At the time, I'm bald now. Back then, I had this really blonde hair. My wife had super blonde hair. Both my kids were blonde, and we would walk around on the base, and everybody from the colonel to my peers, people I worked with, they're like, "Man, you're blessed. You have a beautiful family." And as cliche or corny as that might sound, Jason, I did. I felt blessed. I'm like, wow, look at my life. It's great. It's fall. I'm going to school. I'm working on my bachelor's degree. Things are falling into place.
Wow.
And you're active duty enlisted in the military. I'm not making any damn money, but you know what? It didn't matter. Like we didn't need for anything. We had each other, and we got to travel when I wasn't taking classes, and get back home to New York or Florida to some of our family down there. And my wife's side of the family was from Orlando. So, but so during this time, we were probably in North Dakota for almost about a year and a half. And my oldest daughter is 3. My youngest daughter is a year and a half old. And it's about 2 weeks before Christmas,
Mm.
December 8th, 1996. It's vivid, obviously. I can remember it. We were all, it's cold. It's North Dakota. It's, we all have common colds, things like that. And we woke up on a Sunday morning, and we were going to go to church that day. And my wife, Kenzie, our youngest daughter, was always up super early because my wife was still breastfeeding. She was the first one up. Well, my oldest daughter came and jumped in bed with us, and it was like 7 a.m. We're playing with her, and my wife had said, you know what? Kenzie must be feeling better because she's sleeping in. And she's like, let me go check on her. And so I'm laying there in bed playing with my 3-year-old, and then all of a sudden I hear her scream that no one should ever have to hear in her life. I knew immediately something was wrong. And so I grabbed my 3-year-old. I said, do not leave this room. Stay here, do not leave. And I walked out, and there's my wife holding our daughter, who's 18 months old, Kenzie, who's beautiful, blonde, has the biggest blue eyes in the world, and she's lifeless. And those eyes are now already gray. Like she's just, and I'm screaming. I'm trying to give her mouth to mouth. We're calling 911. We live on the Air Force Base, so what was really hard about this immediately too was the fire department shows up, all the ambulances, and when you live on an Air Force Base, you're all super close,
Sure.
right? The housing, everybody's like close together. All the neighbors are coming out, even though it's super cold, and the people from the ambulance crew, the medics and everything, are people I worked with in the hospital.
Wow.
They knew me, my family. And here's my daughter. And the night before I put her to bed, we were good.
Hmm.
And my wife jumps in the ambulance with her. And I knew there at that point that my life was forever changed, right then. And I walked over to one of my neighbors and I said, can you please watch Morgan for an hour or so? And they were like, what's going on? I'm like, just please watch her. Take care of my daughter. And they said, yeah. And I walked back in the house, And this is really hard to talk about. I went in the house and I picked up the phone and I called my mom who lived in Fort Lauderdale, my mom and dad. And so it's 7 o'clock there in North Dakota and it's 8 o'clock in Florida time. And my mom answers the phone. She's like, hey, honey, what's going on? And I'm like, Mom, I said, you need to do me a favor. And she's kind of startled. She's like, yeah, what's that? And I said, you need to get to North Dakota and take care of my wife and my daughter, Morgan. And she's like, what? I'm like, you need to come here. I said, Kenzie's dead. I'm going to blow my brains out. And this is the last time you're ever going to hear from me. And my mom's crying, She's like, Walter, what's going on? And I said, Mom, my daughter's dead. My life is over. I'm out.
Hmm.
I said, but now you need to watch after her. My wife and daughter. I said, I can't. I'm no longer part of this world. I'm out. I said, you promised me you'll get here. And she said, yeah. I said, click. And I just hung up. Well, that was the last thing she heard me say that day. And fortunate enough for me, like, when everything happened, I never, even though it was cold, I didn't close the door. My neighbors were still out trying to figure out what was going on. And a couple guys heard my conversation with my mom, came busting in the house. And I was walking down my hallway to go get my guns. I was out. I was so out. They tackled me in my hallway. I wrestled with them, and they made sure that all the guns were taken out of my house. And I sat there and cried, man. I cried. And one of the guys called one of my sergeants, came and picked me up. He said, let's get you over to the hospital, see your wife. And I get to the hospital and I'm in a trauma room. And there's my daughter with a, tube down her throat, just laying there dead. And I remember closing my eyes, praying to God, like, please tell me this is a bad dream. Just wake me up. Just tell me that this is not real.
Hmm.
And right across from the trauma room was my office in the hospital. I'd walk to that office and there's all pictures of my wife and my girls all over my desk. It was like torture, and I have no idea what's going on. We had no idea what happened, and we found out through her autopsy about 10 days later. It took a little bit of time that her heart was a complete mess. At 18 months old, she's too old for SIDS, but her, all this different stuff, but her left ventricles were never developed. Her myocardium, her heart muscle was a mess. And had we known, yeah, we probably could have done some surgeries and saved her, but we didn't know, baby checks never picked up on it. So I just didn't know how to live because my Kenzie was my everything. It was my baby girl.
Hmm.
The Air Force gives us what they call a humanitarian assignment. They moved my wife and older daughter, all of us, myself and my wife and daughter, Morgan, my oldest daughter, to Patrick Air Force Base in Florida, which is Cocoa Beach. It supports like Cape Canaveral, where they do all the launches.
Yeah.
So, and I have like 3 weeks off. I got to report in almost a month. I got to report in. I think it was around January 5th or 6th. And so, quite honestly, if I'm going to be really transparent here, I'm 25 years old and I don't know how to be a father and a husband because I don't know who the hell I am. And, I've got my daughter trying to lean on me. I got my wife trying to lean on me. And I'm like, I don't have answers. I'm miserable. My daughter's miserable. They spend every day together. We didn't even know how to put a smile on her face. And here she is, God bless her, she's 3 years old. My wife, I didn't even know how to talk to her, let alone look at her. And it was just a really, really rough time. So we get to this new Air Force base in Florida. And when you get to a base, you got to do in processing. You got to go from unit to unit. And it was really amazing how the Air Force stepped up and gave us that, humanitarian assignment because my wife's side of the family is all in Orlando. My parents, my grandparents are snowbirds down in Fort Lauderdale. And so I get to the base and I'm going from unit to unit to have them, to sign in. And at this time, the Air Force is telling me I got to do counseling. And straight out, honest again, I lied to him. Said, yeah, I'm going. I never showed up to one appointment.
Sure.
And but the interesting part was that day when I was doing name processing and I was going from unit to unit, there was a guy there who looked like who's doing name processing too, who's also 6'1", blonde, you know, thin, looks just like me or whatever. And it's kind of funny. We're like, we almost look like brothers. And I'm like, hey man, where are you from? And he's like, Utah. I said, oh yeah. And I go, where are you from? Or I said, all right. I go, where are you from? He's like, Utah. I'm like, okay. I go, you Mormon? He goes, yeah. Are you? I said, oh no, I'm not. And we just kind of started laughing. And he's like, hey man, right outside, literally right outside the main gate of this base was one of the best surf breaks on the East Coast. So he said, he goes, hey, I'm going to learn how to surf. I bought a surfboard. I'm going to go after work. You want to go? I said, yeah, I did it a few times when I was lifeguarding. I barely know what I'm doing, but I'll give it a go. Came home from work that day, told my wife, met this guy at work, and I'm going to go surfing. And she's, again, we're barely talking. She's like, yeah, I don't care what you do.
Hmm.
So went and bought a surfboard, went out surfing. And the next day, I told this guy, again, his name was Jason. I codenamed him, I nicknamed him Utah. And come to find out, he was part of the hospital as well. And
Wow.
I'm like, hey, man, I'm going to go for a run. He's like, oh, cool. I'll go for a run with you. And I'm like, what? This guy he was super athletic. And, I guess I was pretty athletic back then too, and I love to do sports. And what I come to find out later, that was everything I thought I was good at, he was better at. And as much as I loved it, it drove me crazy too. But, it made me competitive, but he was great. But, we go for a run that next night and, I have to stop running. Man, I got no energy. I got nothing in me. I'm like, how dare I run when my daughter's laying in a grave? Like, what the hell am I doing, man? Why do I get to live? And she's buried, I'm just bawling my eyes out. I'm just like, it's not fair. And he's like, what's going on, man? And I told him about Kenzie, my daughter losing her. He just patted me on the back and told me to take my time, man. And he's like, I got you. I got you. You're
Wow.
gonna be all right, brother. I got you. You know? And I'm like, I was just devastated, And it's crazy how you can go from having all this energy and think you're a pretty fit person, but if you're not mentally there,
You're right. Yeah.
yeah, it takes away everything. I could barely walk a half mile, let alone run another mile. So I was a hot mess, right? So the only way I know how to deal with it, like I said, I'm not going to counseling, but I know how to like work out and run and stuff. And I just decide that like I'm gonna run and think about things in my own mind and deal with it. Well, my buddy Utah starts running with me all the time, and because he's Mormon on the weekends, he's not partying and everything, right? He's in the dorms with the single guys, but he wanted to live a fit and healthy lifestyle and
Hmm.
everything over time. Everything I can't say to my wife and my daughter, good, bad, or ugly, because at that point nothing makes sense. And but I could say to him, right? I could talk to him about it. And again, as corny as this may sound, I felt like God put him in my real life for a reason. Like I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have him there.
Hmm.
And I was just so thankful I had him. And but little by little, on those runs, crying and pouring my heart out to him, I'm now becoming a better father and husband again. And he's becoming the extension of our family. He's over at our house for dinner all the time, playing with my daughter. And probably I don't know, a month or so into this, so now we're looking February, March time. I see a poster on Air Force Base that says first ever Air Force Marathon.
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, look at this. So I turned to my wife and I said, hey, I'm going to go run this. She's like, all right. I said, yeah, it's going to give me something to focus on, something to be positive about.
Hmm.
I turned to Utah. I tell him as well. I said, hey, man, I'm going to train for this. He's like, right on, brother, let's do it. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I'll do it with you. I'm like, okay. He's like, yeah, I'm in. I'm like, all right, And so we start training our tails off and we're working out during this time and we're playing every intramural sport on the base. We're doing baseball, football, basketball, doing everything. And again, anything I can do to consume my mind and get my brain to relax for 10 minutes and not think about Kenzie
Hmm.
is worth anything, right? And again, but now I'm riding bikes with my daughter. I'm, doing dinner dates with my wife. Things are coming along. And so now it's August. And like I said, I'm 6'1", 205. Back then I got down, I was 6'1", 168 pounds. And we were shredded. We were ripped. And
I mean,
so
you
it's
look pretty good right now, Walter. I got.
no, no. Back then we were good. Like our endurance, man. We could go. We were both thinking we would go around 240, 3 hours for this marathon. We were definitely going under three,
Man,
and we
that's
were yeah, we were pretty excited, right? We were good. And so it's August. It's a month before the marathon, and Utah. We go to this retirement ceremony on a beach for a colonel, and we're playing volleyball. And all of a sudden, Utah's like, "Yo, man, I'm gonna go for a swim." I'm like, dude, we're killing these guys because I'm a competitive jerk, right? And he's like, I'll be right back. I'm like, wait, come on, man. He's like, I'll be back. I'm like, whatever. And Jason, I kid you not, it was like something out of a movie, right? Like all of a sudden, the wind picks up a little bit, couple clouds, just a little bit of raindrops or whatever. And I look around, I'm like, something doesn't feel right. And I turn to this guy, Wells, I worked with. I'm like, hey, Wells, where's Utah? He's like, man, he's over there swimming or something. I look over and I see a crowd of people. Something didn't feel right with me. I'm like, what the heck is going on? So I walk over there, and there's my first sergeant pulling Utah out of the water. Now, again, here's this dude who's like ripped, fit. Dude, he doesn't have one fear in life. He backflips off of skis at home. He'll jump off anything, do anything. Amazing athlete. And he's my first sergeant tells everybody just back up. He's like, Utah was just messing around. He's swimming. And everybody just walks away. And I walk up, and Utah's laying there, and he's looking at me, and his eyes are jumping. Now here's a dude not scared of anything. I said, man, what's the matter with you? And he said, and my code name was Boss Man. He goes, Boss Man, I can't feel anything. I said, what do you mean you can't feel anything? He goes, man, I can't feel anything. I reached down, I grabbed his bicep, you know? I said, can you feel this? And he said, no. I squeezed a little bit harder. I said, Utah, tell me you can feel this.
Oh
And he
man.
goes, no, I grabbed it with two hands and I squeezed the hell out of it. I said, Utah, tell me you can feel this. Tell me. And he said, no. I just let it go and his arm flailed to the ground. And I knew right then something was really bad. And I just, because we were part of the medical unit, I started screaming to all the flight surgeons, everybody. I said, come back, whatever. And everybody rushes over. And now I get pushed out of the way. They're stabilizing his neck and everything. And very, very selfishly, I'm like, what about me?
Hmm.
What about me, man? This dude is there for me. And I get in my car, and one of my colonels told me to stand down, and because they knew I was a little bit fragile emotionally.
Hmm.
And if I'm going to be totally honest here, I told that person to F off.
Sure.
I got in my car. I drove to housing. I felt like I was living it all again. It's 8 months later, and I'm told my wife, I'm like, get in the car. Get in the car. We got to go. She's like, what's going on? I'm like, ask one of my neighbors. Again, we're all super close. Watch my daughter, Morgan. We got to take care of something. We rushed to the trauma unit on the base.
Hmm.
There's Utah laying there on his bed with neck thing on, and there must be like 30 military members in there, right? And all of a sudden, this neurosurgeon walks up and he's like, "Hey, who's his family here?" And my first sergeant, this guy, his name was Sergeant Crank. He turned to me and he pointed and he goes, "Walter. Walter's his brother." He goes, "You're his brother?" I said, "Well, I'm about as close as you can get." And the neurosurgeon said, "You see that phone right there?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You need to pick that up and call his family right now and tell him that this boy's never going to walk again."
Oh my
And my
goodness.
wife jumped up and she goes, "No, you don't know Utah. You don't know Utah." And he goes, "Oh, yeah. He's the kind of kid that'll jump off anything, do a backflip, not scared of anything." We were like, "Yeah." And he's like, "This is exactly what he said." And he took his x-ray and threw it up in a thing right there for all of us to see. He said, "You see that?" And he pointed to his spine. He goes, "That's C2, that's C3. They're crushed. There's his spinal cord. It's severed." He said, "He's going to be a quadriplegic. He's never going to move from the shoulders down." He said, "Pick up that phone right now and call his family."
Wow.
And I'm crying. I'm like, I
Hmm.
just buried my daughter 8 months ago. And now you're taking, I thought God put this guy in my life for a reason, He's my homeboy. He's everything, you know? Like, what the hell are you doing to me? And I picked up the phone and, I couldn't even dial. They dialed the phone. I'd met his parents a few times when they come to visit. And I just remember crying to him. And his parents were so calm. They're just tell us what happened. I told him, and come to find out, Utah, because the wind had picked up, saw a couple waves. He went out on his dock and we measured it later. He was on the rail. He got up on the rail. It was 9 feet above the water. He did a 1.5, dove into a foot of water and hit the top of his head and just crushed his neck. And, we're a month away from the marathon and we're ready to go. And at this time, right when I really felt like I was starting to heal, and again, this is selfishly making it about me, like I kept on thinking, like, what is going on? Like, I don't belong in society. Like, people get close to me, something bad's going to happen.
Hmm.
So the neurosurgeon at that point is like, hey, I've got like 7, 8 hours surgery ahead of me. You know, everybody can leave, whatever. So throughout the night, everybody left. I stayed, of course, right? About 5:30 in the morning. Jason, it was like something, again, like just beautiful light shining in the room. And Utah's got that halo screwed in his head, right? Tubes, wires coming everywhere. All of a sudden he wakes up and he looks out of the corner of his eye and he's like, hey, boss man. I said, hey, Utah. And he goes, so they tell me I'm never going to walk again. I said, they're full of shit. They don't know what they're talking about. It's just like, hey, you don't know. And he's like, yeah. He goes, can you do me a favor, boss man? I'm like, dude, I'll do anything. What do you need? He's like, will you go blaze that marathon without me?
Wow.
I just, I started crying. I'm like, no, man, I can't. No, you're my brother. Like, you're supposed to be right next to me every step. Like, we do that together. I said, Utah, we'll do a marathon together, but I'm not doing it without you.
Hmm.
A tear came out of his eye. He couldn't even move his head. And probably about 15 minutes after that, his family showed up. They had to travel all the way up from Utah. And I left. I let them have their time together. I'm like, how do I go home to my wife and daughter and accept their love and accept their, like, hey, we're sorry for what happened. Like, no, like, get away from me. I'm this black plague. Something happens. Like, you get close to me, something bad's going to happen. Something like, I told my wife, get away. My daughter's like, Daddy, you want to ride bikes? No, I don't. Go ride bikes with your friends. Stay away from me. And when you live inside your own head, man, it's a hard place to live. And especially when you think you don't belong. And you question even like, hey, why was I adopted?
Hmm.
Maybe if I was just sort of aborted back then, or was there ever a reason for me being here? And I know that sounds really deep and silly, but man, it's true. Your mind goes in dark places. So over the next few weeks and couple months, they officially medically retire Utah. He had to go through a couple more surgeries. They sent him back out to Utah to live with his family and to live with his mom and dad. We're going to take care of him. His dad was a pharmacist. His mom was a school teacher, but they had nursing help. And I went into a black hole. Again, the Air Force is really pushing me to go to counseling, and I'm skating by because I'm telling them I'm going, and I'm not. And I quit working out. I quit doing everything. And my wife would just try to talk to me, and I'd snap at her. My daughter just knew to kind of stay away from me. What kind of man are you when your daughter's scared of you? Pretty shitty man.
Well, Walter,
It's hard, man. So,
your courage to share this story is beyond strength.
so. Yeah, I'm a grown man. It's hard to talk about, but this is a story, right? And you want people to know how real this is. So, um, I would call Utah every couple weeks and just try to cheer him up. Like a couple times a week, and here I am trying to cheer him up. and he's miserable, right? He's telling me he has dreams that we're surfing, playing hoop, running. And he's like, I wake up and I can't do anything, and I feel like so bad for him, so bad. And yet I'm just living in my own little world. And probably about a little while after, 5, 6 months goes by, my wife bought her first home computer. And it must be like 8:30, 9 o'clock our time. My wife and daughter are in bed, and I start playing around on the internet. It was like that dial up and barely knew what I was doing, right? And I'm searching around. This is in the 90s. I had no idea what I was doing. I'm playing around on it, and I search marathons in Utah, and I
Hmm.
find one in Park City, Utah, coming up. And I turned to Utah and I said, hey, man, or I called him right there. I said, hey, he's like, what's going on? I'm like, there's a marathon in Park City coming up in June in a few months. He's like, yeah. I said, how about I keep my promise to you? I come out and push in it. And he's like, right on, man. Let's do it. I said, Utah, I don't ever want to take away my promise to you. But if I could do something by pushing you and honoring my daughter's late memory, would you be cool with that? He's like, no, man. He goes, I love it. He's like, I'll help you. I'm like, all right, let's go. And I hung up the phone. The next morning, I tell my wife, I'm going to go to Park City, Utah and push him 26 miles. And we're at zero elevation in Florida. And she goes, you're crazy. You're nuts. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And I go to the Air Force base, the credit union on the base. And I meet this little old lady. God bless her. I wish I could still talk to her to this day. I don't even remember her name. And I told her, I said, I need to open up an account in my late daughter's name. And she's like, what do you want to call it? I'm like, I don't know, Kenzie's kindness.
Hmm.
And I opened up an account and I put 20, I'm a listed guy. I have no money. I put $20 in there. And I tell people, I start talking to people once again a little bit and saying, hey, I'm Utah got hurt. I'm going to go push him. And everybody's telling me, you can't do it. You can't do it, man. You're crazy. You're out of your mind. You can't do it. And I loved it. I'm like, keep telling me I can't. Keep telling me I can't. You know what? All you SOBs, I don't care one crap what you say. So I start training. I start running. And I run back and I get back to the shape where Utah and I once were. And during this time, again, I'm becoming better with my wife and my daughter to the point where my wife is pregnant again, and we're happy, but we're scared. We're so many mixed feelings there. And then also, I'm trying to think, like, what do I do for Kenzie's kindness? Like, what am I going to do? And I find this a Christian children's orphanage outside of Orlando, like 30 minutes away. Very poor orphan home. This family had, I think there were 17 kids between, I'm sorry, 23 kids between the ages of like 2 and 17.
Wow.
And, I'm like, what do you guys do for fun? They're like, oh, we do this, that. They go down the river, they go to the ocean here and there. I'm like, you guys ever been to Disney? And these kids, their eyes lit up. They're like, we've never been to Disney. And I'm like, I'm going to send you. They're like, you are? And I'm like, yeah. I got $20 in a bank account, and I make a promise to 23 kids that I'm going to send them. I have no, and I come home, my wife's like, you are crazy. You are a fool. I don't even know how you're going to push him. Like, I'm catching heat from everybody. So I remember after work one day on the Air Force Base, I have to do like 23 miles at night, my last long run. I go for a run and I come back into the base. I go right from work. I change my clothes, put on my running stuff. I run all over the town and everything. I come back and it's so humid. It's blazing hot. And I've got like 4 or 5 miles to do inside the base, inside the gate. And I come inside the base and there's a truck with a big American flag. And all these guys in the back who lived in the dorms with Utah. And they were like, hey, man, we got you. You can do this. You can do this. They're like, you want some water? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, can we cruise for the last 4 miles next to you? I'm like, I'd love that. And they just sat there, just telling me how great it was, what I'm going to do, how much Utah loves me, all this stuff. And I'm like,
Hmm.
heck yeah. And so I flew out to Utah, and I fly out to Utah the first week of June. And there he is. I haven't seen him in over a year. And it's different, right? His hair's longer. He's a little bit ponderous because he's not, his belly's out a little bit. He's not the guy that I once know, but he's still there. He's man. I give him a hug. I love him. I push him in his wheelchair everywhere. We get up to Park City, and we get into our hotel. We walk in, and Jason, the whole room is all this like military people, and we're like, "What the heck's going on here?" And this guy walked up and said, "Hey, I'm Sergeant Patrick McKenna. I write for the Air Force News. We're going to do a story on you guys." And Utah and I looked at each other. We're like, "No, you're not." And he's like, "Well, you're military. You don't have a choice." And I'm like, "Okay, I guess we are." So they interview us, ask us about what had happened, our friendship, and they pulled Jason aside. They pulled me aside, interview us separately. And the next day is the marathon. And the Sergeant McKenna's like, "You think you can do this?" I'm like, "It's one day of my life." I said, "If it was the other way around, he would have picked me up and carried me by now." He's like, "All right." So it was June 6th, and I'll never forget there were some flurries. Some a little bit of it's Park City. I mean, it wasn't super cold, but coming from Florida, I had a long sleeve shirt. I'm like, holy cow, here we go. And Utah's sister was, I think, 21 years old. And she's like, "I'm gonna run next year. I'm gonna do it." We're like, "Yeah, yeah, come on, let's go." She was awesome, right? We start going. So, oh, and by the way, my wife is like 8 months pregnant at this time, so she can't fly. She can't go. So her and my daughter are back home. I'm out there. I'm doing this, and we start running. And about probably it starts on a high school track, goes out through this neighborhood we're going. And what's really cool about this, Jason, is probably like 2 months ago when my son came to visit, we were in Park City. I went by that high school.
No way.
Oh, I had tears in my eyes, and I just sat there. I grabbed my son, and he was in my wife's belly at the time. Man, and he's
So
26
crazy.
years old.
That is
Crazy, right? So we start cruising down. I'm pushing him down this old U.S. postal route. It's a gravel road, and all of a sudden you hear this, dun, 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 and I'm like, "What the heck is that noise?" Like 20 yards over the side was just a log fence and these rolling mountains, and this was like neighborhood in the distance. I'm like, "What the heck's going on?" All of a sudden, this herd of wild Mustang horses come barreling over the hill. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And I turn, and there's an Air Force reporter. I'm like, "Are we going to get stopped? Or are we going to get, what's going on here?" He's like, "No, you're fine." We stop, and the horses come right up to the fence and stop. And now listen, I'm pushing him, so we're slow, but there's other people back there that are slow in a marathon, right? We
yeah.
all stop. We're like looking. These horses, like you could see the sweat on their neck, but it's early. It's like 7:30 in the morning. And all of a sudden, it's like a Budweiser commercial. You can see them breathing through their nose, right? And it was dead quiet for probably 20 seconds, which felt like 5 minutes.
Hmm.
And I'm just locking eyes with this one horse and gets up on its hind legs and go, and then they all just take off. And I turn around to Utah and I look at him, I said, "Hey, man," I said, "it is on. It is on." And he goes, "Let's go, boss man. Let's go." My goal was like 5.5, 6 hours. We came across the finish line in 4 hours and 45 minutes.
Unbelievable.
And when we came across the finish line, again, like I felt like I didn't belong
Hmm.
for so long because of what happened to my daughter and what happened to Utah. Like I felt just like my they were paying for my sins. It's a horrible place, right, to live. And it was the first time I felt that sky open up and like God tell me, "Hey, you know what? I got you. You belong. You belong here. There's a reason you're here."
Hmm.
And I leaned over, I'm hugging Utah, man. I'm like, "I love you. I love you, man. We did it." And he goes, "Hey, boss, man." I go, "What's up?" He's like, "I got to tell you something." I go, "What's that, Utah?" He's like, "I beat you." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, I beat you by 1 second." I'm like, "Oh my goodness." And I just started cracking up. And I'm like, "That's exactly what I needed to hear." I'm like, "Whatever, man." And we just started laughing just like old times. And I loved it. So what happened was that night in the hotel, I never knew how any of this worked. The Air Force reporter took that story that he wrote, and when I finished the marathon, he shared it to every Air Force base worldwide, but he also shared it on the Associated Press on the wire. I never knew what the wire was. I didn't know how this worked, right? So it goes out to every news organization that wants to carry the story. So that night in my hotel room, I got a call from Runner's World magazine out of Pennsylvania, who ran a story, put a colored picture in there. I got calls from Seattle, Dallas, Chicago, all these huge markets. But every time they asked me questions about it, I was allowed to say, hey, but I'm also doing it for Kenzie's kindness.
Wow.
And I kind of, pimped that out there, right? And
Yeah.
I didn't hold back at all. And so I stayed in Utah for a couple more days with Utah and his family. They were absolutely amazing. I love them all to this day. I could barely walk, right? I'm walking on like sticks. Oh, it was brutal, right? So I fly home to Florida, I don't know, 5 days later, and I land in Orlando. It's like an hour drive out to the base. I drive to the base and I pull up, and it's probably like 82 degrees, gorgeous. And there's my wife, 8 months pregnant, in a beautiful sundress, all this, right? And my daughter's now 4 years old. They're standing there, and she's got tears in her eyes, and I'm like, "Hey, babe," and she's like, "Yeah, you did. I'm proud of you." I'm like, "Thank you." And she's like, "You're not gonna believe this," and I'm like, "I'm thinking, no, we did it. Like, believe it, you know?" And she's like, "No, come in the house." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And I walk in the house, and she just points. Now, you ever seen a movie where somebody gets like fan mail and they get
Oh,
bags
yeah.
of mail? We had two huge bags of mail, and I open it, I take it, and I open it out. It's all the Kenzie's kindness. I mean, gosh, man. So every letter, we open it up, and my wife and I are just sitting there crying. We're dying. Like, we're like, oh my gosh, how amazing is this? How amazing. And I had no money for those kids. I still didn't know what I was going to do for those kids. And there was one kid who wrote from Dallas, Texas. He typed 67 cents on a piece of paper. I'll never forget it. He wrote, "You the man," and sent it. 67 cents. And then there was like a sergeant from Germany who wrote, "I'm a retired, or I'm active duty. I'm divorced. I don't have much money, but here's $12." I couldn't
Amazing.
believe that, how
So
people
amazing.
just did that. And so that next day on a Monday, I went and put all the money. I brought it to that old lady on the bank. She's crying with me. We put all the money in the account. The only money thing I spent money on, I bought my daughter, my wife, and Utah all of us shirts that said Utah and Kenzie's kindness on them and stuff. And then I bought all 23 of those kids Kenzie's kindness T-shirts.
Amazing.
And then I took and I paid for their transportation, their admission, a meal, and souvenir. And we did Disney, SeaWorld, and Universal Studios 3 days in a row.
Holy smokes.
So to take like all this ugliness
Hmm.
and make like sense of it, to kind of like give me a reason that I'm still here, and to kind of keep my promise to Utah and also honor my daughter's memory. That's
Hmm.
everything, right?
Yeah.
So like I tell people that's my I got you story. Is it deep? Yeah. And it's really deep. It's my story, right? But like we all have stuff we've been through. We all have stories.
So true.
And how do we come out of that story? How are you going to find purpose? How are you going to find reason? How are you going to do that? Now, years later, my wife and I never really made it after losing our daughter. She eventually had my son. We did that. And so I have a beautiful daughter and a son now. And it was probably, my son was probably 9 or 10. I'm back in upstate New York. I left the Air Force. I'd earned my degree, done so much of what I wanted to do. And I'm still trying to find a way, like, hey, how am I going to honor Kenzie's memory? Like, what am I going to do? I did the marathon, I pushed those kids, but there's so much more. What is that? What can I do? And I'm coaching my son in lacrosse. He's like fifth, sixth grade, and him and all the boys keep on saying, "I got you." And Dan, it's driving me crazy. Or Jason, I'm sorry. It's driving. Oh, I called you Jason. I'm so sorry.
That's
Dan.
all right. I'm the guy with two first names.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. I apologize. So Dan, it's driving me crazy that my son, like back when I played lacrosse, we'd say pick left, pick right.
yeah.
Like, here's your help with the lacrosse stick,
Yeah, actual jargon that's going to help during the game.
Yeah, right, right, right. And so, but they're saying, "I got you." They're not saying ground ball. They're scooping it. "I got you," this and that. But I notice it's like bringing them closer together on the field, but also like off the field. If we're at the house, he's like, "Hey, grab me a Gatorade." His buddy's like, "I got you." If we
Mm,
go to the mall and they're opening up the door for a stranger, they're like, "I got you." And it's really starting to resonate with me because I'm like, gosh, Utah was on my back. Like, pat me on the back. Like, "I got you, man. It's going to be good." And I'm like, well, what is this? Like, there's more to it, right? So one day I end up, Dan, talking about upstate New York. It's a beautiful spring day, and I have to go to Best Buy to get something at Crossgates Mall, which you and I know is this massive mall in
there
Albany.
is. Yep.
And it's a beautiful spring day in Albany. Nobody goes to the mall. It's finally nice out. Nobody's near there. But I go there. But of course, I'm a foodie too. I find my way to the food court. I'm in there. I'm eating Chinese food, and there's no one around except probably 30 yards across me. This huge food court. There's a little old man, and he's sitting there by himself. And he's got like that World War II USS Kennedy hat on. I think we all have someone like that in our family. I'm eating. I'm kind of watching him. I'm barely paying attention. All of a sudden, three young black guys walk in, right? And they have the straight brim hats. They have the bling. They have the baggy pants or whatever. And again, I'm just eating. I could care less. And the old man looks over and he kind of like snarls a little bit, like maybe he doesn't approve. And I don't know exactly what he's thinking, but it didn't look positive, right?
Yeah.
And I just continue to eat. But these guys walk in, and the old man goes to get up, and he has that little orange tray and his black cane, and he drops his black cane, and he's shuffling around trying to get it. And before he can get it, one of those young black guys grabs it and hands it to him, and pats him on the back and says, "Hey, I got you."
No way.
And I swear to you, and I look, and I'm like, oh, of course my ears go up. I look over, and the old man looks at him and has this huge smile on his face. The interesting thing was, the old man never said thank you, anything, but he walks away with this smile on his face, shaking his head, almost like he had this self epiphany, like, how dare I judge them, right?
Mm.
Or think that way. When in the right moment, they were kind, they were respectful to their elders, and they helped them. And they even helped with his tray and everything, right?
Bet.
And he walked away so happy from that like simple engagement, but the power of "I got you." That young man hit him on the back saying, "Hey, I got you." And the old man looked like all those whatever fears or whatever he had in his head just left. Like, wow, I feel safe. These guys are here to help me. And it was just amazing. I called a lawyer and I said, "Hey, I'm going to trademark this and I'm going to make it a brand." And here it is. So if you look up "I got you" in the dictionary, it's like, I got your back, I got you protected, I got you covered. And I'm like, there's no way. It means so much more than that.
Mm.
So that night in my room, and I still have it as my definition, "I got you." I'm like, no, it's about understanding, having patience for people with disability or an illness, right? It's having respect for people of a different gender, sex, religion, race than you are, right? And then it's also about unity, inclusion, sportsmanship on and off the field.
Mm.
"I got you" is the message that really fits the world. And
Yep.
selfishly, I made one of those bullet points of that definition, and I think it absolutely fits and it's appropriate, is honoring the memory of someone you lost,
Mm.
right? So if I can bring this memory, we all have someone in our family, whether it's, God forbid, a sibling, a parent, an aunt, uncle, grandparent, just even a good friend, whoever that might be, that, you know what, we've lost and we want to do right by their memory. And what does that mean? Are we going to spend more time with our loved ones? When we sit down at dinner, are we going to put our phones down?
Mm.
Are we going to go to church and be more inclusive to people that aren't like us, that don't have the fortunes that we have? I'm not saying we're rich, but I bet you, I'm a lot more fortunate than some of the people out there, right? Are we going to go at work? Are we going to be more understanding and helpful to a new hire, to someone that needs the help, instead of being selfish and say, no, let me run with this. I can do this. On the field, when we go and play sports, are we going to be grateful for a single parent who busts their butt to make sure that I have the Nike cleats that everybody else has? That's driving me to practice when they just work two jobs. Are we going to be respectful of others who are sitting at lunch that are different from us? Are we going to get to know their story? So instead of saying, "Hey, there's Dan, he's by himself, ha ha ha," no, we get to know their story. You know what? Hey, that's Dan. He's cool. I know his story.
Mm.
He's a good kid. And yeah, he might still sit by himself, but you know what? He has the respect of his other students. He's not getting picked on for it. We all have a story. We're all different. We're all unique. And
Amen.
bringing us in and making us having unity and inclusion. So my thing is, by bringing "I got you" to the world, I'm honoring my daughter's memory, because I really think it's bringing people closer together. And if one person can listen to the "I got you" message and improve their lives and become a better person, then it's a domino effect, because that person, someone else in their life will see that, someone else will see that, and it's all going to make this world better one by one.
Amen, man.
Hey man, so let me bring that real full circle for you real quick. When we were talking about your class and being in your class that day, I still tell this story. I don't remember all your students' names. You had a bunch of students in there, but one of your students was this. How old were those kids? Like 12 years old?
Yes, they're fifth grade, so the range was like 10 to 12.
10 to 12. There was one kid in your class who had short dreads and was sitting there playing with his dreads, and you could see like all the other students looked up to him. Do you remember this? Maybe you don't, but he's playing with his dreads, and I get done telling the I got you story. Now, I didn't go that deep for the 10 and 12-year-old kids, and I kept it shorter to keep their attention. But we talked about them, what I got you means. And I was asking the kids, I'm like, hey, what could you do to make yourself better, to live the I got you message? And what's something that you could do with your friends, home, school? What is it, right? And I remember there was kids giving different answers that were all great. And I remember finally that kid with the dreads is like, yo, man, I got one for you. And I'm like, oh, yeah, what's that? And he's like, yo, check this out. He's like, my mom's a single mom.
Hmm.
And he's like, I got two brothers. I'm like, okay. And he's like, yeah, yeah, we live on a second floor apartment. And he goes, sometimes my mom gets home from work, asks for help with the groceries. He's like, I'm going to be honest. I keep playing Xbox. I act like I don't hear. I'm like, oh, yeah. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, and he goes, you know what? Next time she asks for help, I'm going to be like, I got you. I'm going to go down there and help her. And I'm like trying to be all cool, stand there. I almost had tears in my eyes. Like, this kid, like, it was so cool and compelling, right? It was just an amazing message. And I'll never forget. I turned to him. I said, can I tell you something? He goes, what's that? I go, I said, number one, the message that you're going to send to your siblings, you're going to make an example, right? It's going to be amazing. Number two, what that's going to mean to your mom is immeasurable. The amount that she does for you taking maybe 2 minutes out of your day to go help her is amazing. And I said, I can promise you, number three, that when you sit your butt back down to play Xbox, you're going to feel so much better about yourself. And he's like, yeah, yeah, man, I got you. And I was overwhelmed. I tell people that story to this day because I thought it was so awesome. What a great message. Something so simple yet powerful. And that's exactly what I got you is. It's three simple words that have power in it.
Wow. It's Thank you so much for your ability to share, to opening up your life and just uncovering all of the moments that led you to where you are today and to developing I got you. Because as you mentioned before, it's so true that everybody has their story. It's rare though that people are able to overcome the vulnerability to share it, and you're opening up a space for people to do that. You sharing what you've gone through, the pain has become your purpose, the messiness of life becoming the message. And it resonates with so many people because everybody can understand it. It's relevant. And what I think is so powerful is the fact that you didn't give up. And there are people out there right now that are dealing with their own challenges, setbacks, loss, tragedy. And by hearing this, they're going to understand that I got to stay in the fight a little bit more. And it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to figure it out in time. But to recognize that those people out there, they need somebody, but they also have a reason to live for.
Yeah.
And you found your purpose, you found your reason to live, and you're doing the most beautiful way to honor your daughter, to do right by your friend. And you lived it out far before it even developed. But it's just an amazing thing that, like, how it came to fruition was through the difficulty and the trials of life. And I think there's a lot that people could take from that, because oftentimes when we're down and out, when things aren't going our way, when we feel like this is it, we're at wit's end, it's those times that really fortify who we are. And God, in a very unique and mysterious way, can create a path and a purpose for our life that we could have never have expected or explained, you
That's,
know.
yeah. So,
And it's something that when people at the end of their life, or maybe at some point on the journey, they're able to reflect and to look back through that lens, they recognize the fragility, but at the same time, like, the gift. And you're empowering other people to recognize the gift. Because in the beginning of your story, you shared with us that, it seemed like you had it all. You had the world right at your fingertips, and everything was beautiful and great. And then in an instance, it changes just like that. And with that being said, people have to recognize the fact that every single day that they get up, there's somebody out there that they can help. There's somebody out there that they can say, I got you to. And those words, like you mentioned, have so much power behind them because of the actions behind them, because of the kindness, because of the love, because of the generosity. And there's never a day or a moment that could go by that we can't make an impact. There's always a way that we can make someone's life better.
100%. And I think you hit the nail on the head. There's so many people out there that are alone. And one of the great things I tell people is that every time somebody looks at their I got yours span, it's a reminder that they're not alone.
Mm,
You're not alone in this world. Like there's someone that cares about you. And I think where, if you look at all these other brands, they're kind of self-serving and things like that. There needs to be a message, a brand that unites us and lets people have meaning and know that it's okay to be different. It's okay to know where you are in life. But no matter who you are, you're not alone in this world. There's people that care. There's someone that cares about you directly.
yeah.
And so I get those kind of testimonies from people who wear the brand all the time. Jason, like it is just crazy to me when I hear that stuff. And I had a girl yesterday, I gave a talk back in 2020, so 5 years ago at St. Rose, a college there in Albany, New York. And one of the students reached out to me yesterday
No
and
way.
tells me that she still the I got you message resonates with her every day, and that she just tries to become a better person, and she loves that it's still out there and trying to make this world better. And that's, I mean, if it's one person, to me, people always say that if it's one person, that's all that matters. So, in a market where there's Nike's Just Do It, right? There's a brand like Nike's Just Do It is amazing. And there's even a brand out of New England called Life is Good. Those are amazing, right? Again, three simple words that have power in them. They're like lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
The thing is with Just Do It or Life is Good, as amazing as they are, God forbid you had somebody in your family who had cancer or PTSD. You could not go to that person and say, hey, listen, life is good or just do it. You can't. However, you could say to them on a very deep emotional level, say, hey, you're not on this journey alone. I'm here for you. I got you. And it's a powerful message. Now, on the same hand, if I want to bring that I got you message surface level, if we have two kids playing basketball, one kid makes a great pass to another kid because they got somebody covering them well, and that person makes the shot. They come back down the court. He's like, "Hey, nice pass." He's like, "Hey, I got you." Like that, I love that it can mean a little bit to everyone, right? And
Yeah.
that's what I love about this message. It's applicable to everybody. It doesn't matter age, race, gender, sex, whatever it is. Um, it is applicable to everyone on this planet, and also in a very positive way. There's
Oh yeah.
nothing negative about it.
It's so positive, so uplifting. I can almost envision the scenes of you being in the classroom, and like you mentioned, the kids that were in my class a lot were dealing with a ton of negativity in their life, right? The environment, just lots of challenges. But for that hour and a half that you were in there, they were extremely excited, right?
That's
They're
awesome.
smiling ear to ear, and I know to the very point that you mentioned, with the student that you shared with from St. Rose, there are kids that their life was better from that day and then on. And the amazing thing is that you shared with me actually maybe a month or so ago, you actually mailed me a wristband that says God's got you,
Yeah,
and created another platform with this whole thing that I want you to share in a moment. And I had a buddy that was dealing with he was going through a tough time. Okay. And I was able to give him one of these wristbands, and it's crazy because the reminder that we have people in our life that care about us, that'll do a simple gesture of kindness, you being that to me, to extend it to a friend of mine, and then him wearing that has helped him through some of these mental blockades, understanding that there's people cheering him on, there's people that believe in him, but also God is on his side, right? God is there behind him. And your story, when I hear it, it makes a lot of sense that you are a person of faith, that you've come into it, because when I hear this tragedy that you've turned into your life's mission and call and purpose, and how you're bettering other people's lives, it's not about you at all, but you said it's about how we can impact other people. It makes so much sense that you've developed this new mantra as well, like from the I Got You brand, God's got you. So maybe you could share a little bit how that came to be.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And I love how you said it's a reminder. That's
Yeah.
always the key word. When people wear the wristbands, it's always a reminder. But so God's got you kind of like came upon me and it kind of fell into place because let me back up. I got you is super important for that human connection, right? And I'll never take, I think there's such a place for it. And I think I got you is for all of us here on earth going through our emotions and feelings to we need interaction. We need to know that people care. We need to, like I said, hug, shake hands, whatever, get to know people. We need to know that people here on this earth care about one another.
They
So
need a
that's number
company,
one.
right? They
But
need people to journey with them, accompaniment. It's
yeah,
huge.
huge, right? And it is important that they're not walking through life alone, right?
Mm.
But now for me, and being quite honest, and I don't ever want to. So this whole thing with God is something that I've struggled with and struggled harder with ever since Kenzie got hurt and Utah got hurt because I was like, God, you've blessed me with so much, but why would you hurt me so much?
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of like blamed God for a long time. So my faith has kind of drifted in and out. And I don't ever want to mislead people. I want to be very transparent. I struggle with it sometimes, right? But I've been becoming closer and closer to it. And I've been like faith. And I'm like, you know what? I got you is amazing because we talk about that human interaction. But you know what? There's so much more from our spiritual sense and
Mm-hmm.
knowing that God is there and God is great and that when we have God in our lives, better things happen, right? And so what I just did, I looked at God's Got You, and I'm like, there is such a space for this because people need that spiritual connection. Because I think this is my opinion, strictly my opinion. I think there's so much evil in the world, there's bad in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we need good. We need to know that there's like a spiritual, there's a God, there's somebody who forgives us for our sins. There is a better life after this. And so I want to help share that message. And
For
that's when
sure.
God's Got You came to me. And I recently went to a men's retreat outside of San Diego where there's over 3,000 men and to see men sitting there praying. And the really cool thing about it, the coolest thing for me was seeing you could bring boys from 12 to 17 and seeing a father with his son. And during that, worship time where somebody was praying and their like 13, 14-year-old son come up and put their arm around their back and pray with their dad. I got tears in my eyes, man. I'm like, how
Wow.
beautiful is that?
Powerful.
How like I'm like, I didn't have that with my son. And and
Mm-hmm.
and that's on me. That's on no one else but me. And for I pray that God forgives me for that. And I'm still trying to come along because I've grown my relationship with God so much closer. And now I'm trying to bring my son into it as well. But how great is it that God's got you no matter where you go in the world? Like, again, we talk about being alone or whatever, but it's for couples, it's for
Mm-hmm.
people in relationships, it's for groups, teams to know that, like, what they're doing, there's a higher sense. And if something happens on that field today, if something happens in that workplace that you can't make sense of, at the end of the day, God's still there.
That's right.
That no matter how bad it is, God is there for you. And so I just think that's amazing. And then again, very selfishly for me, if I ever want to see my daughter again, I just know there's only one way to get there.
That's right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's extremely powerful. First of all, your authenticity is so real, and that's what I think some people, they have to recognize the fact life is hard, it's messy, and God doesn't expect us to have all the answers, and it's okay to have that struggle. And I think when the journey of faith, that's a very important thing for people to recognize, is just like our relationships sometimes with our best friends can be really really strong and feel like we're in synchronicity, and other times we could get into an argument or something like that, but we still have that love, right? We never leave that love, and it's still there. And when you pick up that phone again and you call them the next time, you get on your hands and knees and you fire up that prayer, like he's still listening. And it's okay to be upset and angry. And coming off of Passion Week and understand, like, Jesus was in the garden, he was pleading for God, like, allow this cup to pass. Like, he was upset, and
Yeah.
it's okay. It's okay. But at the end of the day, when we understand that we have people in our life that believe in us and we believe in, and we have God who can sometimes help us when maybe humans can't even do that. We have something on our side that no one else and nothing else can replicate. And the message and the mission behind what you've created and shared with the world, that I know is going to continue to spread. And believe me, I'm one of your biggest advocates, and I'll continue to be, because it is a message of hope. It's a message of inspiration. It's what people need to not only hear but live by, because their life will be that much fuller, right? They will have that much more vigor and a purpose to live for, even during those dark times, recognizing the fact that I can come out of it because I have my creator who's helping me and who's there for me, but also I have people in my life that I need to impact. And my heart is still beating and I'm still alive because there are people that I can impact along the way.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that, Jason or Dan. I was gonna say Jason and Dan. You know what's crazy is that while you were talking, I was thinking about it. You know, when Kenzie passed away that day, and it's what's interesting about it is in North Dakota, we belonged to this non-denominational church. I was in this men's prayer group. I was never closer to God.
Hmm.
And then he goes and takes my daughter from me. So I didn't know how to make sense of anything, right? And again, being transparent, I'm cussing God. I'm mad. I am mad. I'm like, we fly as a family from Grand Forks to Orlando to go to have her funeral and everything, right? And Kenzie's in a casket on the plane with my wife, my daughter, and my 3 year old, my wife and my daughter who's 3. And we get off the plane. I stay and wait to make sure that I see the people unload her casket. And it's why? Because I wanted to torment myself. It makes no sense, right?
Hmm.
And I'm miserable. My 3 year old daughter, again, blank stare. And my my wife, her mom is a devout Christian. Like you can't shake her faith, right? And it's amazing, has always been. And her father, who we called Opa, this guy served in World War II, got a Purple Heart in Korean War, and he actually stayed in so long. He did tours of Vietnam.
Wow.
He's one of the greatest men I've ever known. And they came to pick us up at the airport. And we get in the car, Jason or Dan, and this is no lie, right? And this is no exaggeration. And we're all crying, we're hugging, right? We're standing there, and here's Opa, who saw, our grandfather, who saw people die in World War II. And this man never cried over anything. And to see him have tears in his eyes over this, number
Hmm.
one, broke my heart. And we get in the car. He's driving. I'm sitting in the passenger seat. My mother-in-law is sitting behind her father, right? And then my daughter's in a car seat between her and my wife, who's sitting behind me. And my mother-in-law, again, who's this Christian, turns to my daughter, is rubbing her on her knee and says, "Morgan, you okay? You know it's gonna be all right." And we're all kind of teary-eyed. And my daughter, who had been relatively quiet, looks at her and goes, "Mama," and she called her grandmother Mama. "Mama, it's okay. It's okay." And she's going like this. She's like, "Kenzie changed." And my mother-in-law was like, "What?" She goes, Mama, Kenzie went to the light."
Hmm.
And I turn around, I look, and I tap my wife on the leg, like, "Hey," I'm like, "You tell her this, like." She's like, "No, you." And my mother-in-law goes, "Morgan, what did you just say? Say that again." And she goes, Mama. And she's looking at her. Kenzie changed. Kenzie's okay. She went to the light. She's 3 years old. Dan, nobody ever told her this. Opa put the car in park and we just sat there and cried.
Hmm.
So when you tell me about God's got you, like it's great with I got you and we have this human connection. But as far as that spiritual sense, and if there's a God, everything got answered that day. Does it mean that I still don't have problems with it because I'm mad that he took her from me? Absolutely, that's on me, right? But if somebody was going to take my daughter, could she ever be in a better place? And there's after that, there's without question, I know where my daughter is.
Yeah. Wow. What a
So,
incredible part of the story that you just
yeah.
shared.
So
It,
God's got you is real. God's got you is part of it, and I think that the world is certainly better with us all having a little bit more God in our lives.
Yeah, and my hope is that people are just open, right? So that's where it starts, and it's during those hard times. It's hard to be open, but sometimes it's the "I got you" spirit, somebody who instills that kind of belief, or says that kind word, or has someone, even just their presence, because we don't always know the words to say. But like your friend, Utah was next to you, by your side during your hardest times. When people are like, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do, just be, right? Just be, and God will take that and he'll fill in the blanks. And yeah, beautiful things can come.
You're a
Um,
1000% right. I know I've kept you here for so long, man. I'm sorry.
No, this has been tremendous. I'm so grateful for you to join the show today, to share your story, to share I got you. And maybe before we go, just a little bit. Obviously, people can find you on I got you official on Instagram,
Yep,
um, igotyou.net for your website. And
correct.
um, what other ways can people just bring this message of kindness, love, inclusion wherever they are? What's your final takeaway for our guests today?
So this is going to be a selfish ploy, marketing ploy, right? So, but it's funny with all the apparel and stuff that we sell, people connect with a simple wristband more than anything. So what do I do? If they go to the igotyou.net and if you buy, I always tell people you're not buying one wristband because the whole idea is you buy two. You wear one as yourself as a reminder of what's important in life. And then there's always at least one other person that needs to hear the message, that needs to know that someone cares about themselves. So you buy two wristbands for $4. $1 goes right back now in Kenzie's kindness, and we're putting it back to it's called Peace Love, which is a mental health organization for children. They have all these mental health creators that go and help these kids that through art and through expression, they really overcome so much. They're actually based out of Rhode Island. They're an amazing organization. We just took out of Kenzie's kindness and we sent them a check for $1,000 last month. And we're really doing great things. So are we a brand? Are we a company? Yes, we're incorporated, right? But do we have a give back? We have a huge give back, and we're always going to give back and try to like help other organizations. Right now, it's that Peace Love organization, which is dealing with kids and mental health, which is I feel is really important in today's world. And then on top of that, I think, hey, listen, you're bringing a message to the world that everyone needs.
Amen. Thanks again for joining the show, Walter. You're the man. I love it,
Appreciate
brother.
you.
And guess what? I got you.
I got you, brother.
Take care.
Thank you.